Hi Guava Bees, and welcome to another episode of the Dear Guava Bean podcast. Remember, submit your questions in the sandbox or on the website, and we could be answering yours in the next episode. I'm Francesca, and with me is Claire.
Hello.
And today's question is, Dear Guava Bean, I want to ask about the best task management tool or app you use that helps you get things done when things get so busy on the run. Thanks. Well, that was a nice short question, but I feel like we could talk for hours about this, especially you, Claire, because I know you love anything time management, don't you?
I do. Like time management, task management, that is like my bread and butter. But let me start with you though. What's your go-to tool or app?
This is tricky because I've experimented with quite a few. Like, I used to totally rely on a paper diary, but then I actually moved to Trello, and I still use Trello. I used to try and use it to manage my day. So what I would do is I would have a Trello board for the month, and then I would obviously refresh it every month. But on my board, I would have lists. So if you don't know Trello, this probably sounds confusing, but we can put a link so you can see what I mean. But so there would be like a list for each week, and then a card for each day with tasks. So some of them would be repeating, some of them would be, like meetings that I would integrate my Google Calendar with. That worked well for a while, but I found I still had to do quite a lot of manual work. So although I enjoy Trello, I find it a little bit time consuming to use, and I felt it was a bit counterproductive. So I still use Trello, but it's more for storing information on certain projects rather than using it to manage my day. So now I actually use Todoist, which has been my favorite so far. So Todoist is basically a to-do app. I currently use the free version, and there's quite a lot of features on there, but I know the pro version has way more. Maybe I'll invest one day. But Todoist is basically, you can create different lists. So for me, I use a personal list, and then for each of my clients, I have a list. And then those have their own individual tasks. And what I love about Todoist is the fact that it has smart dating. So you can basically write a task, and you can write, say, every Monday at 3 p.m. and it will remember that and schedule all of your future tasks for those dates and times. And you don't have to scroll through calendars and then repeat them like you do in, say, something like Google Calendar. It's really clever, and it saves tons of time. And I also have it so my Google Calendar gets integrated into Todoist. So any dates and any meetings and stuff I have coming up will get scheduled straight in there, so I don't have to keep cross-referencing as well. And also I still use Trello, as I mentioned, but I also have a Zap set up so that certain things in Trello, if I've given them a due date with, but it's something that there's lots of information on, I keep in Trello. It also ports it through to Todoist. So Todoist is like my main hub now for every day, and I find it so easy to use because there isn't a lot of manual work involved.
Wow, interesting. I mean, obviously I've heard of Trello. That's like a big one that a lot of people use, and we have a tutorial on that one inside the Freelancer Sandbox. But Todoist, I've seen it. I haven't actually tried it out myself yet, but it's good to hear that they do that automatic scheduling. I can see how that could be super useful.
Yeah, because it's I know it probably doesn't sound like it takes a lot of time to write dates and times, but when you know that you have, say, the same thing every week, the same thing every month, or every day even, I have a mixture of all three, and then some one-offs as well, it gets really confusing to remember to schedule stuff, and then it conflict with your calendar, and it's just a nightmare if you have to do it manually. Because it's so clever, it just does it for you. You just don't even have to think about it. You just write it once, and that's it. It's scheduled forever until you change it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that's great. Usually when you find that one tool that works for you, everybody has their one, and when you get your one
yeah, your
then
soulmate
tools. Exactly. You're I found the one. It's perfect for me.
Exactly.
But it's going to be different for everyone. The one is not going to be the same. Everybody has different things that they're looking for in their platform or in their task management tool. So it's really a question of like, what are you looking for? What do you really need? What kind of person are you, and how do you like to keep track of your stuff?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know that actually, I think an old client of mine used to use Google Sheets for time management. And actually, for a while, I found that really useful as well. I know you're a big Sheets fan, aren't you, Claire? Is that what you use for your time management right now?
Yes, well, no, I use a combination of things. So I don't do time manage. I don't have a tool for time management, but I do have a couple things for task management. So my biggest tool, or like my most important thing, if I could only have one thing or one tool, it would be my journal. I have a little, I'll show you right now. Actually, you won't be able to see this on the podcast, but I have a little journal where every day I write down the 3 things that I must do that day. And I limit it to 3 things only. I don't do more than that, or at least, I don't write down more than that. And I found that paper and pen works the best for me. I like having that visual that's offline, so you're not relying on internet or your phone or your battery and able to see stuff. I like to have, just that physical, also being able to tick things off, being able to write it down and then to tick it off. It's very satisfactory for me. I've tried a lot of online tools like, Trello, Basecamp, Wonderlust, all of pretty much everything that you could think of, except for Todoist. Because once I found my one, which is for online work, it's spreadsheets. And then for everything else, it's my notebook. But for me, like the one is a journal. And then what I use mostly for work, like for client work, it is spreadsheets. Google Sheets are like my one.
Yeah, it's interesting about the journal. And by the way, anyone listening, Claire's journal looks like a Pinterest picture. It's perfect. Mine was so messy when I had a paper journal. But it's interesting you say about the paper journal, because there is research to show that when we write something down with a pen on paper, it does activate a different part of the brain. And that's why it helps us remember things more than like an online tool. I guess it's just part of our evolution, probably. But I used to use one for a while, but personally for me, I just found it too difficult to stay on top of. Like, I was forgetting things. So I do think it does depend on what kind of person you are and how you operate, doesn't it? I think it's what's good, like you say, what's good for one person isn't necessarily good for another. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think if it was just the journal, it wouldn't be enough for me because, like you said, it's hard to stay on top of things. I work with several clients, so there's a lot of little stuff that I wouldn't be able to put into my journal. So for me, the ideal situation is a combination of the journal and the spreadsheet. I feel like a spreadsheet is a very powerful tool that I can customize to exactly what I need. And that's what the biggest problem that I have with other tools. Like I can't really customize it. I'm kind of limited to what features they have. So if I like the features, great. But if I need a calendar here, if I need some equations, if I need to drop some links in, if I need to tag people, there's always certain limitations that I feel like with spreadsheets, I don't feel those kind of limitations. There's a lot of flexibility with spreadsheets. And I feel like I can put my own style on it. Like I can put colors on things, I can put emojis on things. I can have my little check boxes. I have a little checklist spreadsheet, and every time I tick the box, it like grays out the task. And this is just a basic Google Sheets template. Like Google Sheets has several templates, and they have a to-do list template. If you get that template, you can just use a basic Google Sheets to-do list. And I have one spreadsheet for all my clients and one tab for each client in that spreadsheet. So each tab is its own to-do list. And that's how I keep it all organized when I'm like on the run. Because if you have different things in different places, I mean, that's really the biggest problem when you have stuff all over the place. So it doesn't really matter what tool you use, as long as you find one tool, you put everything in that one tool, and you stick to that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of one of the biggest things, isn't it? And again, I think for me, that's why like a paper diary didn't work. 'Cause I think maybe I just tried to rely on it too much for everything. Because like then when you try and like test out different types of app and things, you've got stuff spread out, and then actually you're probably wasting time. So yeah, I found that definitely. And it's really interesting to hear about Google Sheets because, like I say, one of my old clients introduced me to managing tasks on Google Sheets. And I feel like when I have tried it, but I have a tendency to like start a sheet and then sort of get bored and leave it and then forget it exists. Because like I did that recently where I found this old spreadsheet on my Drive account, and it appeared to have tasks and things for some projects. I'm like, I don't even remember making this. So I do find it interesting. And I didn't know that Google Sheets actually has those templates on there. I suppose that's really helpful. I didn't really know that you could use it for that until, I guess, quite recently.
Yeah, you can use, there's so much that you can do with Google Sheets that most people don't know about because you just think of it as like a spreadsheet. But they're so flexible. You can do so much. I mean, the only thing you really can't do is insert images and video, but you don't really need that for a to-do list.
No, I suppose that's different, isn't it? Is if you've got like some people have like specific apps for that kind of thing. Like, for example, actually someone in the sandbox mentioned Evernote, and it's something I'd never used before. And I guess this is a little bit of a side note, really, not really task management, but I'd never really used it before. Now I actually have it on my phone because it syncs up to desktop. So if I think of something and I don't want to forget, I just pop it in there and then it's at my desktop whenever I need it. But I would then like transfer it into my task management app. So yeah, I mean, I think that kind of thing is useful. I think another thing that maybe is overlooked, and it's something I heard about, and I can't remember where I heard it actually, but is Gmail can be really useful for managing tasks. And that tends to be another thing if you've just remembered something, you're out of the office, or you're somewhere where you haven't got access to your app that you use or your journal, is to email yourself. And you can set up things like a Zap so that when you email yourself, it puts that email into your to-do app, or at least the next time you check your inbox, you've got that reminder there. And I think that's like a really basic but quite useful little tip. Is if you're out and I think most people have like their Gmail or their other email client app on their phone. So you can just send yourself an email and manage it from there. It's really useful. And actually, there's quite a lot of integrations with Gmail in particular, like Trello and, all these other management apps where you can turn an email into a card or a to-do list or an event in your calendar or something like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, the options are endless when you get into like all the different ways you can organize your tasks and stuff. And even in Slack, like for a while, in the GuavaBean Slack, there's a plugin or an app called Kyber, Kyber, and that you can use that to create little tasks in Slack. So if you use Slack on a regular basis and you don't want to have like an extra tool for time management or for task management, think about, if there's a little app or something that you can add on to a tool that you're already using, like with Slack. If you just add on Kyber, you could have your task management inside Slack. But whatever works best is going to be different for everyone. But if it works for you, that's what works best. For me, I found my key or my solution with spreadsheets, and now I wouldn't do anything else. Like, no matter what someone tells me about how good another tool is, like, I've been around the block, I've tested most of I feel like I've tested everything, and I know now what works for me and what doesn't. And sometimes if you haven't tested a lot of things, if you haven't tried out a lot of stuff, then you don't know yet. And so it's just a matter of trying a few different ways and seeing what works for you.
Yeah, and I think that is a key, isn't it, really, is trying them out. I think most apps these days do have like a free trial or at least a free plan, so you can get the basic gist of how something works and whether it will work for you. Like I've said in the past, like there's been a lot of ones I've tried, and sometimes it's not even something you can say like, oh, it does have this feature or it's missing this. Like sometimes I just don't think you can write down on paper exactly, why it is you like something, why it is you don't. It does just come from trying something out. It could be the interface doesn't look right to you, or you can't collaborate with people like you want to. I think that's also really important to remember, especially when you touched on Slack there and using some of the apps you can integrate. It depends how you want to task manage, because maybe from client to client it will vary as well, because task management isn't just something you do on your own. It can be with other, clients or other freelancers that you work with in a team. So it's important to remember that as well. Where are you hanging out? Like, for example, Slack is a really popular one, and you can integrate apps there which help manage everyone's tasks, and other people can, assign things to you. And it just helps just having that extra functionality, and it's definitely worth exploring, because like I've said, a lot of these are free. In fact, most of them are free, and it just takes a bit of experimenting and seeing what works.
Yeah, the reason I love Google Spreadsheets so much is because it's free. I mean, obviously, one of the reasons, I have a lot of reasons, but I like that it's free and it's always going to be free. There's no fees involved, there's no upgrade plan to get more features. No, it's like what you see is what you get. It's free. It's always going to be free. And it's up to you to, use it however you like. I think I'll include maybe either a screenshot or even a link to an example to-do list with Google Sheets in case anyone wants to download that after listening to this podcast and just kind of see what a Google spreadsheet looks like. It's not going to be the best thing for everyone because you have to be comfortable with Sheets. You have to like it. But I will say, like, I manage all my clients with spreadsheets, all my tasks. And, the GuavaBean is 100% managed through spreadsheets. We don't use any other tool like Basecamp or Monday or, any of those other. A lot of companies use Asana, or they have this other tool where they organize all their stuff. And if you have a system that you really know and you use well and it works for you, you can do huge things. Like you can manage tons of people, tons of projects with just one good tool, but it has to be the right tool.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've inspired me to look at Google Sheets again, because like the way you describe it makes perfect sense. So I love that it's customizable. I love that it's in the cloud. So it's like real-time editing. I think that's maybe what a lot of people worry about is with something like a spreadsheet, that they're going to like save a version of it and then open an older one and they're going to miss loads of info. It's like one of my old clients used to use like Excel, and that didn't work because they were very like fixed on wanting to use Excel to manage certain things. It wasn't like for task management, but it was for projects, because people kept saving different versions. It made it really difficult to use. But Sheets is definitely like quite flexible. You've got a lot of customization, like you say. So sometimes it's the simple options are actually probably the best, aren't they? So I'd be interested even to look at that, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right about the simple options being the best. I think that's why paper and pen work so well for me, because it's so simple and because it's so easy to get overwhelmed with these tools. There's so many tools out there. And then when you find a tool, you have to set it up, you have to put all your tasks in, you have to manage all your tasks. I feel like sometimes I spend more time managing the tool, keeping it updated, than I do with actually the task management itself. And that's kind of the reason why I stepped away from all those tools. I just felt like it's almost a task in itself to manage your task management tool.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like a learning curve, isn't it? With every new app you try, it's like, okay, where do I find this feature? Or, it's always like a bit of a sort of school day, I guess, when you're learning a new app. But yeah, with like Google Sheets, I suppose, even if you kept it super basic, like just for yourself. It doesn't have to look really fancy if you're only just starting out with it. I guess it would work. It's still going to work for you, even if it doesn't look really fancy. You can always learn these skills, can't you? And on top of that as well, another bonus of Google Sheets actually is that you can use your skills in Google Sheets to help other clients with other things. You know, it's not just about task management, but I guess the added bonus is you can use it for pretty much anything.
Yeah, I think that's why I use it, because I don't just use it for task management. I use Google Sheets. I create dashboards where I keep track of, numbers, because I run Facebook ads, so I always got to keep track of numbers. I got to keep track of important links, call notes, pixel codes. There's so many little things to keep track of. And so a Google Sheet is just kind of like a home for me to put all of this stuff in. And it just doubles as like an overall client management tool.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I mean, I think for me personally, as I say, I like mainly use Todoist now and everything. Like I use a couple other things that branch off that. So like I would say Trello and Calendar probably, but like Todoist is my main one. And one thing I will say is that I personally, for me, I like something looking really clean and minimal. And like Todoist, if you like really minimal user interface, I would definitely say like that is a really good option. As I say, they have a free and paid. I use the free one. It gives you everything you really need for like a minimal to-do list kind of thing. And it's just like it's got a dark mode on there, so it's really nice and easy on the eye. The notifications aren't too brash and annoying, because like that annoys me. I get annoyed with notifications, so it's just like really minimal, and it just like it really helps me. So as Google Sheets helps you, I feel like Todoist helps me just keep on top of things without kind of getting sidetracked by stuff. So I feel like, yeah, if you want something that isn't too feature rich, and I know that sounds quite funny because a lot of people want bang for buck, don't they? But if you want something that's not too feature rich and is just quite simple to use but quite clever, with, as I say, with like the smart way it dates and times things, I would definitely suggest giving it a go if you haven't already.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I'll just take a peek at it. Obviously, I'm not gonna jump the fence from my Google Sheets. But I could always just take a look at what else is out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth a look at. I mean, just to see what other people are using, I guess. It's always interesting to see how people have things set up. And yeah, like I've said, like even Trello for task management, I always found it a bit cluttered in the end, but there's even ways you can make like bullet journals out of Trello and stuff like that, which is really interesting. So as a side note, I guess it's not always just about the app you use, but depending on how much customizability, that's not a word, is it? You know what I mean? But the versatility of something, yeah. Sort of how versatile something is, you can change the method in which you use it as well. So if you initially are a bit put off by something, don't give up on it, because you can always try other methods. Have a look around on the internet and things and see what other people are doing with it, because there's a lot of different methods out there that you might not have tried that might actually end up working really well.
Yeah, Airtable is one that just came to mind that I know that is really good. I've tried it out. I know a lot of people who like it and really use it. It's kind of like spreadsheets, but a little bit more dynamic in a way.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it? Have you tried it?
I have, yeah. I had an agency that I was looking into working with as a writer, and they used Airtable, and it was the first time I saw it actually. It was about a year ago. It's really interesting. It's like a database. Like you say, it's very I guess it's still customizable, but it's sort of like cross between, like, I guess I don't want to say cross between a spreadsheet and a database, because it isn't really. I guess the only way to figure it out is to look at it. But yeah, I would say it's quite unique actually. It kind of reminds me of a more modern version of like those old what are they called? They're like old databases that you used to be able to build on Microsoft. I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, they're it's really interesting, but I've never used it extensively myself.
There's tools like that. There's also Toggle if you want a tool that can track your time along with task management. Toggle is one. And then also I know that Andco. Andco is a tool that does invoicing and proposals. You can invoice clients and send out proposals and contracts through Andco, but they also have a task management side of the tool also. So I think for me, if I were to choose another tool or if I were to recommend a tool to anyone, I would say make sure you get something that's flexible and can do more than one thing. You don't want to have one tool for managing your tasks and then another tool for invoicing your clients and then another tool for communication and then another tool for all your notes. You know, if you can keep all of that centralized in one tool, that's going to make your life and your client's life easier. That goes a long way into, if we're talking about what makes the best task management tool, I would say it's something that can do a lot more than just manage your tasks.
Yeah, I agree. And one last thing I just wanted to add, and it might be quite helpful if you're not quite sure what app to opt for, is there's a website called slant.co, SLANT.co. And you can input, say, Trello, and it will come up with loads of alternatives. And these are user-recommended alternatives, and it provides screenshots, it links you to the website, and it has information like pricing and features and stuff. So if you're not sure what to go for, go on there, because that's how I found like half of the ones I've tried, and it's really useful. We can always pop a link in that people can follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that website. That's a very good shout out.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the Dear Guava Bean podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and follow Guava Bean on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for updates and new episodes. As always, our goal is to empower you with the information, inspiration, and direction you need to achieve financial freedom through online work. For more content like this, join us in the Guava Bean Freelancer Toolbox. Just go to guavabean.com to start your free trial now. Thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. See you in the next episode.